But I tell you what you gotta do. You gotta learn not to expose when you're asking.
That's right. Yeah. I know, I'm too full of it. All right. It's rolling?
Yep.
Hello, Mr. Barger. Why don't you introduce yourself to us and tell us what you do for Abandoned Mine Lands?
My name's Wally Barger. I'm a branch manager for the emergency branch for the Division of Abandoned Mine Lands. We take care of the emergency projects and high priorities here in eastern Kentucky.
What's your history with Abandoned Mine Lands? Have you always worked in the emergency branch?
Now, I started out with the construction branch about 21 years ago, and then I went to work in Frankfurt as an environmental scientist, doing maintenance projects and AMD projects and other things. And then the emergency branch opened up and I became the supervisor with the emergency branch. And that's been about 6 years ago. We started out with me and 2 inspectors, and we've grown into a group of 10 now, with doing our designs in-house and doing our bids and everything.
So you, in a way, are the father of the emergency branch in Kentucky Abandoned Mine Lands.
Yeah, I'm the oldest survivor right now, so I guess our director at that time was Steve Holman. He was the father of the program, and he brought me in to be the supervisor and the leader of the group for a while.
Let's talk about this local area, the Hard-Burley area. Do you have any idea how many projects that you've done in this area since you've been in the emergency branch?
Yeah, in the emergency branch, we've done 4. There had been one project done previously, which was the Sam Sawyer slide, which construction branch did it out of the London field office with Debbie Collins as the inspector and Miller Construction as the contractor. And there's also been some what they call enhancement projects in this area. There's been 2 of those, the Hard-Burley 1 and Hard-Burley 2 enhancements that we used with these other projects as their waste areas to take our spoil and stuff and help reclaim those sites.
Is that a problem with the projects you do, finding a place to dispose of your waste material?
That's a great big problem with our projects, because we need to move quickly, so we have to have somewhere that's already been disturbed and is NEPA friendly, so it's usually a big issue with us on our projects.
You say you do your designs in-house. How big a staff do you have, and what kind of people do you have?
We have 2, one works out of Hazard, one works out of Frankfurt, that are AutoCAD experienced. We have 2 fellows that work in Hazard that are licensed land surveyors, so they do our drawings and everything. Once we get our preliminary plans, we have to take them to the design branch in Frankfurt for the engineers to look them over and approve them and get their stamp on them before we can send them over to finance cabinet for bid.
This project took about 16 months for phase 1 and phase 2 both to happen. How much time do you believe it took from the time that we got the call about the problem at Hard-Burley until we were out here on the ground?
For the phase 1, we were probably out here within 30 days, because we bid it pretty quick. We went through the process. It went pretty quick with that one. So, because of the flooding issues and the problems they had blocking the state highway and having water flowing under a couple houses, and 2 or 3 of the residents had to move out because of their fears of what was going to happen up here on the hillside.
And it was a pretty big potential problem, wasn't it?
It was a great big potential problem. The landslide was about a little over an acre that was active, and probably about a 3-acre old landslide that the water was getting into and was still kind of creeping down the hill, but it wasn't an active landslide. But the landslide that initiated their response was a pretty big landslide and had quite a bit of material in it. So we went down and redid all the drainage work through the state highway and created some silt traps out of gabion weirs to help slow down the material while we were working. We also created a diversion ditch that we cut into rock along the top of the landslide. We took it back over into the Sam Sawyer's landslide, which gave us a good spot to put it, and we created some silt traps and stuff on that side to keep the material out of the stream.
You know, we're standing here on the waste area now. Describe to us what this waste area looked like in the beginning.
Before we started working in here, this waste area was a open pit, had standing water in it. Some places it was about 6 feet deep, most places it was about 3. Had some brush and stuff in it, but had a lot of standing water. The roadway out through here had standing water on it, and there was no control for the drainage. So when we started filling, we put in sub-drains. In here we dug down to the bottom of the pit and opened up near the coal seam and put in sub-drains and took all the water off back into a natural drain and down into the drain that we cut over the hill so that we would keep all that water out of the slide area.
This is beautiful. The vegetation is done well here. This was just used recently as a tree planting site. You want to talk about that just a little bit?
When we started our backfill plan here, we planned on putting trees in, so we tried to keep our compaction at a minimum. But I guess in a year of sun baking and vegetation growing, when a contractor came out here, he found it was too hard to do, and as part of his contract, all he had to do was use a dibble bar and make a hole. But he found it hard, and he did us a pretty good favor and brought a small excavator in and actually trenched in and planted the trees. The trees were provided by OSM, Office of Surface Mining Reclamation Specialist Jim Holliday had worked with us to get the trees out here, and he helped us get them planted and everything. So we ended up with somewhere around 35 to 3,800 trees planted in this area, in the waste areas for the Joan Burnett slides.
Do you feel like Abandoned Minelands is a good neighbor to the people of East Kentucky?
I think Abandoned Minelands is a very good neighbor to the people in East Kentucky. We always try to listen to them and take care of whatever needs and questions they have.
What about the people of Hardburley? Have they worked well with you?
Yes, they have. Well, surprisingly, when you come in and they've got mud running through their house, you kind of get afraid of what all they're going to say and ask for. But every one of them that we've dealt with in here, from Herman Caldwell to Sam Sawyers and to Joan Burnett, they've all been very pleasant to work with.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about this project in particular?
Well, the Hardburley community is an old coal mining community, and this kind of damaged quite a bit of it. We have a Hardburley cemetery right out here behind us that this road services, and we had to keep it open and maintained through all the process. And the folks up in here were understanding that what all we were doing in here. So the folks in Hardburley were pretty good to us.
Anything else you'd like to tell us?
Not today.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Barger.